Good morning, beloveds. It is a cold-ish, wet, drizzly day, and it is a day that looks like I would just curl up and stay in bed all day. It's the day that it makes me, I wish I was a cat, because then I could just curl up, just like Gabby is doing right now, and just sleep. But I'm not a cat. And I have responsibilities because it's Sunday. So, this is one of my responsibilities. Although it's one of my joys too. So, take the responsibilities with a grain of salt. Okay. It is December 13th. Our title is Today I Am Resolved to See Only the Good. He brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death, and break their bands in sunder. And that is from Psalm 107:14. Sin is an obstruction in the heart, an inability to feel and comprehend all that is noble, true, and great, and to take part in the good. And that is from the Talmud. All right. We all wish to be brought out of darkness into the light, to be free from the bondage of fear, superstition, and want. The mind must be riveted on freedom. The thought must rise transcendent over bondage. If we do this, then we are brought from the shadow of darkness into the light of the glorious freedom of God. The Talmud tells us that if we would be free of sin, mistake, the mind and the heart must be open to enlightenment. Ignorance of the truth is a great sin or mistake from which spiritual enlightenment alone can give freedom. But what is spiritual enlightenment other than an increasing capacity consciously to become aware of the divine presence as peace, joy, and harmony? If we are to know the truth that makes us free, we must first recognize the essential non-reality of evil as being a thing within itself. We must equally know that the essential absolute reality of good, not only as the supreme beneficence, but as the absolute power. Therefore, today I am resolved to see only the good, and whenever evil, in the form of lack, fear, pain, or uncertainty presents itself, I shall endeavor instantly to recognize its native nothingness. To know that it is entirely relative, I shall make every effort to see through this limitation to that which is boundless and free. I shall proclaim the glad tidings of freedom, the freedom of the kingdom of God in my experience and in the experience of everyone I contact. That was a whole lot of words. What does it mean? I'm going to take it apart sentence by sentence. He's kicking my butt for December. Okay. Today I resolve to see only the good. Science of mind has been accused of being, it's like we focus on the good and we ignore that. No, we don't ignore pain. We don't ignore suffering. We don't ignore what is going on in the world. What we do say is that evil isn't a power. We do say that the underpinning of everyone is good, and that what we endeavor to do is to bring out the good. And sometimes that means, it means taking a stand, and it means saying this isn't right, and it means saying there are better ways to do this, and how can we help? And we do things like we do here at CLC. We do the food markets. Once a quarter we get together and we make the donation. The food bank drops off the food, and then we hand the food out to whoever needs it. We don't ask questions. That's not true. We do ask questions, but we don't ask, why do you need this? All you got to do is show up. And you don't have to give us any information. We want to know how many families we're serving so that if we find that what we're doing isn't enough, we can increase it. But we don't ask you, are you worthy? We don't ask you why you need this. We just say, here, this is, so that's what we do. We show up and we do. I know that Mile High up in Lakewood, Colorado, but Denver, Colorado, does the same thing. They do drives and what have you. It's like they see that there are people in pain and there are people suffering and there are people who are in need, and they meet those needs. So we do acknowledge that everything isn't perfect in this world. Everything isn't, that there are people in need, and we step up and meet those needs, and that is what is good. We don't believe that evil is a power in and of itself. We don't believe that evil is a power we have to fight. We believe that good is a power, and that we use that good to fill needs. All right. So today I'm resolved to see only the good. Today I am resolved to recognize the only power there is good. And the psalm, oh my God. He brought them out of darkness in the shadow of the death and break their bands in sunder. I love translations. Not really. He enlightened them. And when he enlightened them, he broke their bonds of fear, of sin, of mistake, of not knowing. It's really, honestly, that's not knowing. It's ignorance. He broke the bands of ignorance. Okay, so from the Talmud, sin is an obstruction in the heart. Never heard it put that way, and it's interesting. An inability to feel and comprehend all that is noble, true, and great, and to take part in that good. And it makes sense. One of my classmates, Reverend Cherry, says that sin is self-inflicted nonsense. And it's like, and that's, I would say that sin, ignorance is a choice. When you don't know, you don't know. But you can make efforts to find out. So ignorance is a choice. So, if you are choosing to do something that you know is a misuse of the power, then that is definitely a sin. And that is not an appropriate use of your heart. And your heart will suffer when you are misusing the law on purpose. When you don't know any better, I get it. But the information is there. Ignorance, like I said, is a choice. Okay, we all wish to be brought out of darkness into the light. To be free from the bondage of fear, superstition, and want. Okay, to be free from the bondage of fear, of superstition, and want, the mind must be riveted on freedom. That means the mind must be riveted on good, or God, or spirit. The thought must rise transcendent over bondage. You got to know that there's something better than this. If you can dream it, you can do it. You got to know that there is something better than this. You have got to envision a world. That's why our motto is a world that works for everyone. You got to envision something better than this. If we do don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution. Because if you focus on the problem, all you see is the problem. If you focus on the solution, you have a chance. Well, probably have more than a chance. If we do this, then we are brought from the shadow of darkness into the light of the glorious freedom of God. The Talmud tells us that if we want to be free from sin, and mistake is in quotes, the mind and the heart must be open to enlightenment, which is why I said ignorance is a choice. Ignorance of the truth is a great sin or mistake from which spiritual enlightenment alone can give freedom. You have to choose to learn. You have to choose to know. You have to choose to open your heart, to open your mind, to open your eyes, to see what's going on around you. There's only it's only to a certain point in your life that you're allowed to say, I didn't know. Because you can find out. You are choosing not to know. But what is spiritual enlightenment other than the increasing capacity consciously to become aware of the divine presence as peace, joy, and harmony? It's the increasing capacity consciously to become aware. That's spiritual enlightenment. The increasing capacity to become aware that everything is divine, that everyone around you is carrying the soul of God, that everyone around you is made of spirit, that everyone around you is a child of God, everyone around you is a godling, that everything around you is spirit and should be treated as such, that living things have their own agency. And should be treated as such. They should be treated with kindness and compassion and love. We were meant to be stewards of this world, not masters. If we are to know the truth that makes us free, we must first recognize the essential non-reality of evil as being a thing within itself. The essential non-reality of evil being a thing within itself. It is not. It is a misuse of our creative power. It is a misuse of us. We must equally know the essential absolute reality of good, not only as the supreme beneficence, but as the absolute power. The essential absolute reality of good. That the creative power of the universe trends towards life, trends towards good, trends towards joy, trends towards peace. It's the only thing that there is. And when we misuse it, we're binding ourselves deeper into darkness. Therefore, today I am resolved to see only the good. And whenever evil in the form of lack, fear, pain, or uncertainty presents itself, I shall endeavor to instantly recognize its native nothingness. To know that it is entirely relative. That if you take away what evil, fear, lack, pain is feeding on, then it will fall into nothingness. It has no power to sustain it. It only has the power that we ourselves give it. Or our institutions give it. Oh, I shall make every effort to see through this limitation to that which is boundless and free. I shall proclaim the glad tidings of freedom, of the kingdom of God in my experience and in the experience of everyone I contact. I shall proclaim the glad tidings of freedom of the kingdom of God in my experience. We are not a proselytizing religion, spiritual movement, whatever you want to call us. We're not. We don't go out, knock on people's door and say, hey, have you heard the good word? We don't do that. What we do is proclaim the glad tidings of the freedom of the kingdom of God in our experience. Basically, we live it. We lead by example. We live it. If people want to talk about it, we want to talk about it. But we want you to start the conversation. We want to live in such a way that you want to start the conversation. You want to come and say, hey, what do you know that I don't know? That's how we do it. I've read theories on missionaries that I'm not going to get into here, but yeah, that's how we do it. We live in the kingdom of God. We want to be guideposts, signposts. We want to light the path. We can't walk the path for them. We can't talk them into walking the path, but we can show them the path by living it ourselves. And we want to live it in such a way that everyone around us can sense it. So, today I am resolved to see only the good. That's the mission today. The mission, should we choose to accept it, is to resolve to see only the good. To recognize that evil is not a power in and of itself, but a misuse of the power, and to take that away. To take everything underpinning that away underneath it so that it falls into the nothingness that it is. And it sounds easy, and maybe it is, and sometimes it's not. And when it's not, that's okay, because you have support. All right, which means I'm going to encourage you to do something loving for yourself, do something kind for yourself, do something compassionate for yourself every day, today. And today is Sunday. Today is a day of rest. Today is a good day to do something loving for yourself, do something kind for yourself, do something compassionate for yourself. I'm going to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, because I want you to live in that state of grace where you wake up and you think, okay, what can I do that's loving, kind, and compassionate for myself? Because if we do something loving, kind, and compassionate for ourselves, then we will have the wherewithal, the energy, the cup that's full to do it for other people. And I will encourage you to do something to engage your mind and your body. I mean, it's wet right now, but, go for a walk, do something, get out, get some fresh air, open your windows, get a fresh perspective, get chewed on by your cat, because that's what's happening to me right now. She's chewing on me. But open the windows of your soul. Allow that breath of heaven to remind you that you live in heaven now, that you are surrounded by heaven, that you are surrounded by spirit, and that you are surrounded by godlings. And that you are a godling, so that when you look in the mirror, you see spirit looking back at you. Because you are a beloved child of spirit, in whom spirit is well pleased. Always. And there's nothing you can do to change that. So allow your experience to be the experience of the kingdom of heaven. And allow people's experience of you to be the kingdom of heaven. And that's a big ask, sometimes, depending on who it is. So, but yeah, allow people's experience of you to be the kingdom of heaven. Treat them as if they have walked into the kingdom of heaven when they are in contact with you. I kind of think that's what that last line meant. All right. I'm going to move into the process of my day, and I'm going to remind you that we will be back on Facebook Live at 11 a.m. with the service. So please join us for that. I'm not sure who's going to be in the house, but we'll have music as always. And then remember that Reverend David will be on with you around 5 p.m. today, and I will be back with you at 9 a.m. tomorrow. All right, beloveds. If she stopped chewing on me, Rita says, have a wonderful day, beloveds. Do what you need to do.